Welcome to the Unit Economics Podcast. I'm Josh Stabinsky. On today's episode, I sit down with Erin Forden and Maddie Nehlen, co-founders at Betty Joe's, a small batch pastry-inspired ice cream brand based in Brooklyn. Betty Joe's started as a side project built around Erin's culinary background and Maddie's love of ice cream. What began with a homemade vanilla base and a small launch for friends quickly became something much more serious after their cherry pie pint, topped with a handmade lattice crust, went viral. Part of what makes Betty Joe's so interesting is that it operates somewhere in between a bakery, a CPG brand, and a local drop-based food business. In this conversation, we talk about the economics of hand-packed ice cream, the high-touch pickup model that creates both operational constraints and real customer relationships, monthly drops, collaborations, events, wholesale, retail, and what it would take to eventually move into their own customer-facing space. I learned a lot during my conversation with Maddie and Erin, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Maddie and Erin, thank you both so much for taking the time to do this today. If you wouldn't mind starting with a background on yourselves, that would be great.
Sure, I'll go first. My name is Erin. We've been doing Betty Joe's for almost 2 years now, 2 years in June, which is very exciting. Started in the restaurant industry, pretty adjacent. Maddie and I both worked at this tech company called Bento Box. That's where we met. I was doing customer success, things like that. And about 3 or 4 years ago, I decided to go to culinary school while I was still at Bento Box, and I went for baking and pastry, which really got me into the space. And then we decided to start Betty Joe's about 2 years ago. And, Maddie's love of ice cream and my pastry school background has got us here.
So like Erin said, we met working at a hospitality tech company. I was working in marketing and content creation, and I always like to have a side project. That's like something that has always been true about me. So when Erin came back from pastry school and asked if I wanted to start a business, I was extremely eager to say yes, and we started brainstorming immediately. And yeah, I'm just like big ice cream lover. It's my favorite dessert in the world. And we just thought that it would be a really fun vehicle for Erin's delicious pastries.
Yeah, so for listeners who might not be familiar with what's differentiated about Betty Joe's compared to other ice creams, can you just briefly explain what Betty Joe's actually is?
Totally. So we are a small batch ice cream brand that is made here in Brooklyn. We are pastry inspired, which is, I don't know, a great way of saying that we usually just do flavors based on desserts that we love to eat and kind of what we're thinking about that month. But since we're a small batch and direct to consumer, we can keep our ingredients, pretty bare. We don't have a ton of preservatives in it or anything like that because people are picking it up, 3 days after I'm making it. But the real differentiator is the top of the ice cream. We usually do some kind of like eye-catching ode to the dessert that it is based on. So for a cherry pie, which I'm sure we'll talk about, it's like cherry jam with a pie lattice on top, or Black Forest cake with a cherry on top and like hand-piped buttercream. There are a bunch of different examples, but that's kind of the like face value differentiator. And then I think quality of ice cream and flavors are obviously also something that we really pride ourselves on.
So you started off making Betty Joe's at home. Walk me through what the first batch looked like. What went well and what didn't?
We developed our vanilla base for about a month. Erin and I went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's so funny. I'm using the notebook now to take notes for work. This was our little scoring rubric that we made while we were scoring all of the different vanillas. And once we landed on a base recipe that we were really excited about, we were going to do our little launch for just friends and family. And so it was June, and, we were just thinking like, what's fun and really like classic ice cream. And so the first thing that came to mind was like a chocolate dipped cone with rainbow sprinkles. And so that's how we came up with our first flavor, very affectionately called Coney Island Queens. It's vanilla ice cream with chocolate shard, homemade cone pieces, and rainbow sprinkles. Obviously, our flavors have gotten a lot more sophisticated since then, but that is still a very popular flavor for cakes and events. It's just like such a crowd pleaser. But yeah, when we were making the first pint, Erin did this fun little thing where she just sort of sprinkled some cone pieces and sprinkles and chocolate on top, and she sent me a picture, and I thought it was so great, and that's really how it began.
So it wasn't the idea to incorporate the pastry you were inspired by on the surface, on the top,
It
was
wasn't
not from yeah, that wasn't there from the start.
Sort of a happy accident.
It was a happy accident. I think it really started, and I have this. I want to get this text printed out and framed because when it really started was the next month we did cherry pie, still for like 40, 50 people. And I was like biking, maybe doing deliveries of the last month. And I was like, I texted Maddie, like, this is crazy. But like, what if we did handmade lattices on top of the pints? And she was like, that is crazy, but we probably should do it. That sounds like a lot of fun. And it totally made sense when it was for 40 people. It does still make sense. It is obviously a bit of a different thing to be doing like 1,500 pie lattices rather than 40, but I'm so glad that we had that idea and committed to this. Don't want to say bit, but kind of committing to the bit of like doing this for all the pints, because I think that really like obviously put our name on the map. But originally it was not that. We were really just kind of like seeing what worked. Our friends were excited about it. We were happy with our recipe at the beginning, which has definitely changed like in the last year and a half. We found it's gotten better, but I think we had something really good for the first month, so which, paved the way, which I'm really happy about.
So, as we'll get into, cherry pie went viral and it was a massive success. And there's so much to talk about just on that topic. To frame where your heads were at this point, what were you thinking this project would be? Were you thinking we're going to scale this business into the next Ben and Jerry's, or was this just sort of a fun side project that you were hoping you could maintain indefinitely and, service, let's say, 40 to 50 friends and family members every month?
I think that we knew it was a good idea and that we had a good product. And I think we both believed that it would eventually scale into a viable business, but certainly neither of us were expecting or prepared for how quickly. And so while it was so exciting, it was also so scary, but it was a forcing function for us to figure out and get serious really quickly about, are we going to do this? Yes, you're in, I'm in. Okay, let's figure it out. And it could have been the death of our friendship and business, but I actually think that it really strengthened both.
So, walk me through what happened with cherry pie because I feel like it sets up so many of the subsequent questions we're going to get into.
So we did Coney Island one month, 40 people. We did a small round of cherry pie the next, about 40 to 50 people. Same thing, first run, because we had to get it to people before people could see it. And we had a friend of a friend who connected, and not even connected us, told her friend, one of our friends told her friend about cherry pie, and she bought a pint, which was great. We didn't know who she was. Actually, we texted each other that it was our first stranger purchase. We were like, this is so exciting. This is the first person who's purchasing who we don't know. And then 2 days later, we got tagged in a reel and it was blowing up. And we didn't know who she was. We didn't know she was an influencer when she purchased. And we were just super stoked that people were excited about it. Then we did another month of cherry pie. We only did, I think, 100 or 150 of that. But Maddie and I were doing hand deliveries of every pie. I mean, every pint. So I was putting like my backpack full of dry ice and pints and biking around the city or taking the subway truly up and down. And that grew to like, I don't know, 300 or 400 the next month. It was almost doubling every month after that.
Yeah, there was so much demand because we were still doing relatively very small batches. There was so much demand that, yeah, it was just like increasing exponentially every month. And shortly thereafter, we moved into our commercial space. We were making cherry pie out of our little at-home Cuisinarts.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Obviously, you can't scale exponentially month over month over month over month, even if you are in a commercial facility. So,
No.
What broke first in the system beyond just the distribution methodology not being scalable either? What else broke behind the scenes?
I mean, I was running out of freezer space.
Yeah.
I bought a mini freezer to put in my apartment because I was like, I have like a half freezer. Like, where is this all going? So that was first. Second was we were like, just to have our I's dotted and T's crossed, like we should be in a space that is not our apartments.
We both have cats.
Yeah, like this is not like a health and safety. This is not great. And so that was quick, but we obviously weren't ready to jump into our own space. So we found Nimbus, which is a great like shared commercial kitchen space. It helped a lot with that. That was massive. And that helped fix it. They also have a cafe here. So that was, we started offering pickup here as like a little fake storefront. So that really helped. And I think once we decided to nix delivery and just fully lean into pickup, that like put a lot of eased our brain because it was a lot.
Yeah, we bought a commercial grade ice cream maker so we can make, many more pints at a time versus I think maybe the second month that we did 100 pints of cherry pie, Erin and I were each making like 5 pints a day for a
It was
week.
brutal. It was so brutal.
For sense of scale, roughly how many pints are you delivering? I know not literally delivering, but how many pints are you supplying a month?
We're doing about 1,500-ish a month now. Plus, we'll do events, cakes, things like that. But just purely pints, about 1,500.
So, I mean, that's incredible first to start. Congratulations. That's really
Thank you.
impressive scale. It's interesting to me, though, for a number of reasons. It seems like and you sort of alluded to this earlier, it seems like your flavors have gotten more complex, if anything, over time. And I feel like that's maybe the opposite of the approach a lot of CPG brands might take. How have you managed to do that?
I think it's interesting. I mean, I think it's interesting. We are a CPG brand, but we're also not really. Like, kind of in one, like you said, like more of a bakery than a CPG, which is totally fair. But it's also only Maddie and I. And I think that means that we both have learned a ton about being in the kitchen. Like I went to culinary school, but this has been my culinary school, right? Like being in the kitchen every day. And so I'm incredibly way more efficient. Like everything is down to a science now. And we are now in our own space in this kitchen, which means I can be here whenever I need to. And I think that all of those freedoms have come with being able to do more complex flavors. I'm getting more creative every day when I'm in here, and that's like, so it's becoming more fun, not more fun because it was really fun at the beginning, but maybe my confidence is growing in the flavors that we can do. And so that's coming with more complex flavors. And even if there are more of them, I have more time since I'm also full time doing this, like I'm happy to be hand piping pints all day. So
Yeah, we were paying for every hour.
yeah, in the kitchen before.
And so it did not allow for a lot of freedom for Erin to like test flavors, try things and fail, try things and really succeed. And so we had to be a little bit more like, okay, let's not play it safe, but like what's something we know for a fact we can make, test it one time, it's going to be delicious, people will like it, cool, let's ship it. And now we can be a little bit more flexible. This month we added on a second flavor, like that's something we're trialing. And so there are also, there's a lot of people doing handmade ice cream. Like we have to push ourselves to stay like the hand-packed pint of choice.
How have you been able to maintain consistency pint to pint within a given month? I feel like hand packing 1,500 pints of ice cream is not only, very laborious, but is prone to creating inconsistencies. How have you managed to navigate that?
Yeah, luckily, we haven't heard anything about that from customers, so I'm hoping that it's not a big deal, or they're just being nice and they're not telling me. But I think that there's part of the Betty Joe's brand that is like Maddie and I are at every pickup. You talk to me, people are like, I don't think we're trying to hide that it's hand packed or handmade or whatever. So if there's a little bit of difference from one to another, then I don't think that really bothers me at this stage because it is like a bakery product. Some of, like you get a cookie, it's a little wonky, it still tastes delicious. Like I'm hoping that that is kind of the same feel that the Betty Joe's brand has since we're still small, we're local to New York. We give off maybe a bigger brand than we are, I think, often. And so I don't know, the inconsistency it doesn't super bother me. It kind of comes with the territory, I think.
Yeah, I think it's our whole vibe is intentionally handmade. And Erin and I, I feel like we're constantly talking each other off a ledge of like, it's okay. People know it's handmade. Like, it's not going to be perfect. And I think that's what people like about it.
But I also think they often do look exactly like the picture that is online.
That is very, very important to us. Like, we never We do not want to advertise something that we can't deliver on.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people, if like, we'll talk to strangers at pickup, and they'll be like, "Oh, you can see in our picture." They'll be like, "It doesn't actually look like this, though, right?" I'm like, "It does actually look like that. I can show you right now. Like, that's actually it does every pint look like that." And I think if we lost that, I'd be bummed. So that we want to hold on to that for sure.
What's your operational capacity today? Let's say absolute maximum. You get a huge influx of orders out of nowhere. I know you could probably combat that by just, flipping a switch on the website and turning off the ability to place an order, but I'm curious, in theory, what's your max capacity today?
I mean, I think the production capacity is we have a lot of room to grow. The issue that we run into, and this is what we talk about often, Maddie and I, is our pickups. And it's like more about getting 250 to 400 pints to Talea in the West Village and like pack that up and have 300 people come in 2 hours into this restaurant. Like that is our issue rather than I think actual kitchen capacity. Like I think I could do 3 to 4,000 pints in a month. Like if I were really cranking and we got maybe someone to come in and help me, like I really think we could. I think the issue would be how are we getting those pints to customers? Are they like what does our pickup look like when we grow that much? Which is what something we're like that's our biggest, I think, pain point.
Yeah, how are you thinking you're going to combat that issue?
At the moment, at the moment, it's feeling good. We've added a second pickup date at our kitchen, and we have opened up a pickup location on in Hell's Kitchen. It's something, honestly, I think we are still trying to solve for because being at pickup and building that community with our customers is really, really important to Erin and I. And I think we both believe it's very critical to the success of our business. But obviously, there are only two of us. So it's not something that we have solved yet.
Before we get into retail and what future retail expansion might look like, I do want to talk about the monthly drop model
Mhm.
because as it stands today, it's sort of functioning as a marketing tactic. It creates a sense of scarcity. It's fun. And I'm interested to hear about how you two are thinking about straying away from that. There's obvious pros and cons, but that doesn't seem like the easiest decision to weigh.
So it's interesting. Something that we have actually now we're kind of butting up against is the inverse of the scarcity model, which is that because we were producing such a small amount for such a long time, we're in like a period of retraining customer behavior where they think, I missed the text, I was in a meeting, it's sold out. And it's not. We are making more pints than ever. I feel a little bit like a broken record. Maybe, Erin, you have something else to add, but like it's something that we have not really quite solved for is how do we continue to make people want to get the monthly pint while also making it easier for them to get it? But then not lose the momentum and the excitement behind the scarcity
Yeah.
model, so to
I
speak.
think this month is a really good example of that, which is our first time we're offering like a bundle of two flavors, which is really great, and it sold really really well. Like this is one of our best months that's not a collab, really, which is great. And so it's adding a new thing. It's adding a bit more value to what the customers are getting. I think sometimes also the price point for new customers of like a $16 pint is a little spooky if you've never had it before. So this we had like a $10 pint that was a little more simple this month. So, I think offering different levels of entry and finding new customers, but also we have a massive returning customer rate, like huge, huge, huge. Once the customers get what is happening, they'll be back, which is great.
Yeah, I think there is something inherent in just having not scarcity, but limited availability just month to
Hmm.
month in terms
Yeah.
of the flavors that are actually offered. I think that naturally sort of lends itself to, I don't know, to that.
Yeah, people get excited if we say we're gonna bring a flavor back that they really like. Like, if we just had all the flavors available all the time, I don't first of all, that would be insane. But second of all, I don't know that we would have people, like, lining up, so to speak.
Yeah, 100%. And this is really like the golden time of like limited edition food in New York City. Like people are willing to line up for food.
At least we don't make people literally wait online.
You're doing everyone a service.
Yeah, yeah. No one has to, you don't even have to like really talk to us at all. You can come and go and it's not a
Yeah.
big deal.
We have a lot of new customers that will be like, "Oh, wow, that's it? That was so easy." And we're like, "Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just come, pick it up."
I think that speaks volumes about how difficult it is, how difficult some of these food pop ups are.
Yeah, for sure.
But I digress. You brought up the topic of repeat customer rates, which is a really interesting one. So I was going to ask you what your repeat customer rates look like, and also what the rate of customers buying both pints this month looks like.
I can look it up right now if you want to just give me 1 minute.
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna guess our repeat customer rate is like a 60 or 70% of what we're doing, but you can take a look at it. And then the bundle, I think we just sold out of the bundle, which means it's like 600 people bought it, which is great. But Maddie will give you the exact numbers in 1 second.
Okay, so for this month, our returning customers, we had 600 returning customers and 150 new customers.
That's really impressive. I mean, I will say there is something to wanting to maintain a healthy balance there. You probably want to see more new customers, but the fact that there are so many returning customers is really impressive.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing that Maddie and I have been figuring out, not just recently, kind of since the beginning, is that this is gonna sound like the craziest thing to be complaining about. All of our marketing has basically been organic. So I'm not complaining about this. It's a really an amazing problem to have. We haven't had to really double down into like paid marketing almost ever. And I feel as though as we reach these like plateaus or like, growing points, we're at, like we said, we're maybe not so scarce. It's not like we need to remind customers that, hey, we don't only have 300 in the store anymore, so like you don't have to get it right in that moment. These are things that as we grow, we are starting to like tap into more that we didn't have to before when we were like smaller. So yeah, getting that new customer number up obviously would be a great thing to do. And it's just like us tapping into these new muscles that we luckily like didn't really need to use in the beginning.
And then to answer your question, we've had double the amount of people purchase the bundle than a single carrot cake pint.
I think that speaks for itself, right? The products are amazing. The ice cream is incredible. For those listening who are in the New York area, I cannot recommend Betty Joe's enough. Let's talk a little bit about retail
Yeah.
and how you're thinking about that longer term, right? And I earlier in the conversation, I brought up what your capacity looks like as an individual in the kitchen, let's say. And if it's 4,000 pints and you have the physical space in the kitchen, you could maybe bring on another person in the kitchen and pack another 4,000 pints. But let's say the kitchen only holds 5 people, your capacity is 20,000 pints. You're limited to this geo. In theory, I'm thinking through this out loud. You could expand to another geo. You could try to replicate this model in other cities. That seems expensive and difficult. Like there's a manual nature to this that seems like it's just quite difficult to scale. So retail then seems like the obvious answer to that question. So I'm interested, does this product translate well to retail? Like what do you have to sacrifice in terms of like the pie crust top and the ingredient list in order to be able to go out to retail? And then how do you think about expansion into retail generally?
Yeah, so I don't know if our big goal is retail. Like, I don't know if right now you asked us, like, do you want to get on Whole Foods shelves? Like, I don't think we would necessarily want that. I think in the dairy and ice cream space, it's an interesting space that I think is like the at-home chef doing like ice cream is a little bit of a new thing. And the licensing in frozen food and dairy is like very strict and very difficult if you're going the wholesale route and very expensive. The equipment's very expensive, the distribution's very expensive. So I don't know if that's what's on our radar in this moment. We had a little stint at pop-up. I don't think our issue with there wasn't capacity, but bumping up against like wholesale licensing things that we just weren't so knowledgeable on. Like I think in maybe Maddie, you can say how you feel, but I think if I think about us looking at expansion, I think of like a retail space of our own that is a pint shop or, cakes and pints and whatever. And that's our own space where we can control distribution and we can that. But I don't know if or if I'm really interested in like shipping nationwide, like this can be a New York brand, a New York shop, and that is where I'm happy for it to live for a while. I don't know, Maddie, do you have other additional thoughts?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think that like while there are definitely advantages to one day getting our wholesale license so that we could not necessarily be on shelves in Whole Foods, but be in some of these more like boutique mercantile style stores where our customer is. I think there's definitely advantage to that, but it's hard to wrap our head around how we would ever be able to maintain what is so special about Betty Joe's, which at least right now is the handmade element, and really have that go. I mean, even to the tri-state area. Like, I think if we were to expand, it would be very, very gradual. I could actually see Erin and I are both very, very committed to like the idea of being a local New York brand, but I see a world in which we meet business partners that want to replicate this on the West Coast, and like maybe we give that a try. Like, I think that is probably honestly more likely than us being just like a national grocery store brand.
Yeah, it's such an interesting dynamic. It's unlike the dynamic of anyone else I've spoken with on the show. It really is not your typical CPG company. It's a sort of hybrid bakery CPG product like you've described.
Yeah, and I think there's something sort of speaking to the way that we've already grown. Maddie and I still own all of the Betty Joe's. Like that is, I mean, that's what you need to do to like expand to the much larger things to go into retail to get the big equipment we need. You know, I think we feel too small to start giving up ownership at this time. And I feel like we're happy to see how much we can grow on our own and reinvest in the company and see what that can get us before we start giving equity away when we are bringing other people on, when I feel like it's nice to have a handle on the whole thing. So we're like slow, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Yeah. You teed up my next question, which is how are you thinking about financing and how are you thinking about raising capital, if at all? So you answered that question, but then my follow-up question would be what would have to be true in order for you to say it's time to take on capital? Like what would need to be going on at that point?
Yeah, we actually had a a friend doing some consulting for us, and she asked the same exact question. And even at that point, we sort of did entertain the idea of opening up our own shop. And I think ultimately we decided it was too early. And I know for a fact that it was the right decision for us. But I think we will reach a point in the coming years where we have a very, very solid foundation of repeat customers and consistent month over month growth where we feel comfortable that the drop model or the one flavor a month model, we've outgrown it and we have enough interest to sustain a shop that makes our product a lot more available. And I think that that would be the time where we would be ready to take on investors.
Yeah, I think that would be the next step is like us getting into our own space, which we looked at it, we were thinking about it at the end of last year, and we got into this dedicated space, which I think was really helpful. Kind of going back to like my confidence as the quote unquote head chef. Like I feel like being in here and really figuring it out what that looks like month over month and even what month is May. And we're doing two flavors already, which I feel like was kind of out of the picture when we were like in December. And so, like, what could we be doing by December? Will we be feeling ready at the end of this year or the end of next? Like, that feels, I think we're both pretty flexible, which is nice. We don't have super strict goals, which also means we keep like doing things bigger than we were anticipating, I think, which is great.
I don't know if this is an interesting question, so tell me if it's not. Have you locked yourself into a long-term commitment in that space? And I ask because I'm interested if it would be difficult to pivot quickly out of the space into retail. And obviously, there's a lot that would go into, there's a lot of lead time that you need. So maybe it wouldn't be that difficult and you'd be able to time things easily enough that it wouldn't really matter. But yeah, I'm curious how much flexibility you have when it comes to moving out of the space and into your own.
We're just here for a year. I feel like we felt okay with signing that because we were like, I don't think in the next year something astronomical is going to happen that we're like, if it hasn't happened already, I don't think it will, that we like need to be in a space tomorrow that's our own storefront. So I feel like that gives us enough time.
Have you seen much seasonality in the business? I think the typical ice cream company probably sees a good amount of seasonality, lower winter sales, for example. But this is not the typical ice cream company. Have you seen much seasonality in the business?
Not to an extreme degree, no. If anything, I feel sometimes summer is a little bit slower because people are out of town and yeah, you got to be here to get it. I think like holiday months with like big national holidays, we do our best to like be more accommodating and plan our pickups accordingly. But generally, with the exception of like a few dips or plateaus, we've just been growing. And so maybe like 3 years from now, I'll have a better like look back on seasonality. But I mean, we say ice cream is for year round. So
I agree.
I also think there's like the scoop shop seasonality is so fair. You're not gonna like go walk out and have like a scoop of ice cream on the street in negative-degree weather, but you might eat a pint on your couch watching a movie any day of the year, right? So
Yeah.
it's a little
Yes,
bit different.
I will.
I mean, I will
Pumpkin
too.
pie
So
a la mode on Thanksgiving, like
totally. And like I actually think around the holidays we see people who are like, I want 6 pints to take home or for like, my friends giving, we actually see a bump in that kind of thing, I feel like, which is maybe wasn't expected.
Yeah. Do you see a lot of gifting? Do you see a lot of people purchasing more than one pint at a time?
Should we talk about Doreen?
please, let's talk about Doreen.
Let's talk about Doreen.
Doreen is, I hope she listens to this. She's one of our favorite customers. God knows how she found us, but she joined our annual subscription last year, a couple months late. So she must have found us somehow. I don't know. But she buys, I think this year she bought 3 subscriptions and then usually buys like 5 extra pints because she's bringing one to the girlfriend who drives her. Her boyfriend likes one. Like she brings one to her daughter. Like every month she's leaving with like 6 or 7 pints. And it is like the best thing in the world. It's so sweet.
The numbers would look so different without Doreen. This business is in serious trouble without Doreen.
We'd be ruined without her.
Honestly, she keeps us afloat in the tough months.
Doreen, honestly, God bless. But she is like an extreme example. But I think people will be like, I told everyone at the office, and now I'm getting 3 to bring into the office. Or
Yeah.
like,
A lot of people slightly begrudgingly have become the de facto pickup
yeah,
person, and they're like, "All right,
yeah,
I'm picking up 4 orders."
yeah, exactly. I mean, I will say, I know we've already talked about this, but truly, pickup is like such a joy. Like, shout out to every single person we talk to every month. It like brings me like it restores my faith in people like so much. I'm like, oh, these are the best people in the world, and everyone is so nice and grateful.
I know, we really feel so lucky. Our customers are so kind, and they feel
Yeah.
really invested in the business, and they come and they pick up, and they wanna know what's next month, and they wanna tell us about their favorite flavor or what they liked from last
Or
month.
they actually want to invest.
Yeah, we have been pitched a few times.
I'm not surprised. It's really interesting. I want to see you both succeed and I want to see this business grow, but there is a really wholesome part of the story around how high touch the product is because it creates these conversations and these relationships with your customers in a way that you would not be able to have otherwise. And so I think that's a really interesting tension. And I know we could spend a lot of time on that topic, but I do want to shift gears slightly. You mentioned collaborations earlier in the conversation, and I'd love to hear a bit about how you're thinking about collaborations. In theory, you could bring on a new collaborator every single month, and I'm sure that would drive a lot of awareness for the brand. But it also would likely introduce a lot of complexity as you're having to coordinate with another business. And you're probably on fairly tight deadlines and don't have a lot of wiggle room, just given the nature of how you manufacture and deliver the product today. So yeah, walk me through how you're thinking about partnerships, what that's looked like to date, where you've seen the most success in particular partnerships, if you're willing to share that, and then maybe what some of the downsides have been and where you found some challenges.
Yeah. We've only done a handful, and we like really like to pick people who we really feel good about their product. I would say like our most successful collab to date, which is probably our only like true two food companies coming together, has been Kate's Key Lime. And we've done a couple other collabs with Gabby's. I don't know what her brand is called exactly, but she's just like a baker in the city. She's amazing. But the Kate's Key Lime collab was really interesting because she also has a pretty huge like cult following online. And I would say it was nothing but beneficial to everyone. Like it was great. I think that since she is a small at-home baker that has a similar vibe to us, it was easy to coordinate with her. I don't think anything ever feels like a big money grab. So I think there's always like a lot of it's like everyone's like genuinely excited to do a collab and we're excited to just like share in that. And we're always just looking for other people who like have, are really happy to work with like women, people of color. We really want to highlight other small businesses and that's important to us. I don't know if it's made the ones we've done have been super complicated. We've done ones that feel like they're smooth and they work really well.
Yeah, everyone we have collaborated with, Gabby, Kate's Key Lime, Caitlin Lavery, like each of those have been very involved in the creation of the flavor, the branding, the like comms around it, the marketing release. And so it really has felt like a true partnership, not so much just like, a brand sends us their stuff and we swirl it into a pint. And so I think because of that, it's been like honestly such a joy. But we say no to things, We're particular because there's also only 12 months in a year and we don't want to just be collabing with like hypey brands because we have our own ice cream agenda that we want to push.
Yeah, what would you say no to? What would make you say no?
I mean, I can say for me, like a big brand that sort of takes away our ability to say that the pint is handmade. So let me try to think of like a good example that doesn't, put us on blast.
I feel like it's less about saying no to things and more about like finding people we really want to highlight. I mean, we're not going to be working with some like big faceless brand. Like that's just not going to happen. I don't know. Like, I mean, I think the collabs are really important for like brand recognition, but we're not doing something just for like so that a company will like pay us a lot of money to work with them.
Yeah.
The one more brand we have worked with was Yes Apples, and you just had Tin Leon, which was great. And like that is really also lovely, women owned. They're doing something cool in the space, and that felt like a really cool brand to highlight, and that works really well for us, So I guess it's more about who we will say yes to. But maybe Maddie has some brands she would love to call out on the pod about how much she hates them.
I mean, no, I'm
Go
just
off,
thinking
Maddie.
like, and this isn't like my God, I don't know. But like if Entenmann's were like, hey, can you put our pound cake in your ice cream? I don't know that that would make a lot of sense for us because, maybe Erin would want to make the pound cake.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose the handmade
Yeah.
aspect of it. When we collabed with Caitlin, she really wanted to do like a peanut butter fluffernutter Ritz flavor, which is delicious. People loved it. It was amazing. But a little bit of my like morals were like, oh, but that's not handmade. Like, is this like against our thing? Not one person mentioned that to me. No one's mad at me about it. But like in my own brain, I'm like, oh, like these aren't handmade Ritz and this is peanut butter, whatever. Should I be making my own peanut butter? Like,
Erin texted me, should I be making my own peanut butter? I said,
should I be getting chocolate? Should I make my own chocolate?
I think it's okay. It's not like, what's her name? Nara Smith. It's not like Nara Smith, like where like you have to mill your own wheat. I think it's okay.
But like it's a thing where I was thinking about it, like,
Yeah.
oh, like where's our line? And it's
Yeah.
definitely not here, but like that is where I can imagine it crossing at some point of like, oh, this isn't in our wheelhouse, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Absolutely. You've also ventured into other baked goods and events. So walk me through what else you're offering and how you see those things complementing the business. Why, when there's so much work involved with what you're already doing, did that feel like the right idea?
Yeah. So we're offering now like cakes, which I would say is our most popular like event product, like a birthday cake. People are if you want a tiramisu birthday cake, hit us up. But we're also offering like pre-scooped cups for weddings or like corporate events or things like that. And I think it didn't make a lot of sense for us to be doing that before, even though we were when we were like hourly. We were doing them, it was great, but we definitely were not making any money off of them. And then now that we've moved into this dedicated space where it's not like every hour is charged and I can stay late and make a cake for an hour and it's not going to like ruin our whole day, it is making a lot more sense because it's just in a spare hour I can make a cake while other things are setting and it's actually not that difficult. Yeah, and it's going this is our biggest month of events yet, so which is great.
yeah, I think it's every time we do less so the cakes because I feel like the cakes are inbound from existing customer base, but anytime we do any sort of corporate event, that's just a huge potential customer base. Likely they've never tried Betty Joe's before. They're getting a little scoop. We do our best to deliver like the exact same type of experience as like having a pint. And so that's a great opportunity to hook a bunch of new customers.
Are you seeing that show up in the numbers?
We have people who come and say, I had you at, this event at my office, or, you know, like I had a piece of your birthday cake at my friend's party. And so that's really fun.
Yeah, no, I think it's really helpful to us. And I mean, I think it's a good push for us to think of that in another business sense and like how do we price these things properly and how do we promote ourselves for these things and how do we make sure we're presenting ourselves perfectly? But I think it's a good push for the business, I think, and I'm like excited that we're doing more and more of them.
The next question is for my dad, because every time I talk to anyone unless it's extremely self-explanatory, he says, why didn't you ask them where the name came from? I need to understand. That's all he cares about is like why people name their companies what they name them. So where did the Betty Jo's name come from?
Well, Betty is my dog.
And Jolene is my cat, so Betty Jo's it is. I think it is the first thing we came up with before we even knew what our company was going to be. I think we were like, this would be an amazing brand name.
Like encapsulates like a vintage vibe. I think it like evokes the idea of a handmade thing.
Yeah, Betty Jo herself.
I know. I thought you were going to tell me like, oh, both of our grandmas were named Betty Jo. Like, can you believe it? So it's a great name.
We get a lot of people that come and say, who's Betty?
Yeah. Which one's Betty? Which one of these Betty?
What's something you've changed your mind about since launching Betty Jo's?
I thought that scooping events were going to be a big part of our business. Like not just handing out pre-scooped cups, but like corporate scooping events. And maybe it will be one day, but right now we are not set up for it.
I don't know. I was reading this question. I was like, I feel like it's only reinforced a lot of the things that we thought about at the beginning of like, I don't actually like, I'm happy we're holding true on our like local thing. I'm happy that we're holding true on our direct to consumer. I feel like maybe I thought that people would burn out on coming to pick up, and that isn't true. Like people are happy to do it every month. So that's great. I guess I'm more just like, I'm excited that our business model's working, and maybe I didn't think it necessarily would for so long, but like that we're still doing it the way we want to be doing it. But I don't know. I mean, we learn a lot all the time.
I think we have time for one more question. Where do you see Betty Jo's 3 to 5 years out?
I think I see it. Maybe we'll have two different answers, and that's okay. I think I see us having like a pint shop, bakery, production space that is customer facing, that is hopefully in a walkable neighborhood. And we're, I mean, probably doing a lot more production, but that's kind of what I would imagine our home would be in the next 3 to 5. I
agree. And maybe there's some little interactive ice cream component.
Our original idea?
Our original idea.
Our original idea. When Maddie and I we had this like very funny business meeting when we first decided to have our like really run with it. And we were like, we'll be fancy Cold Stone. You'll do like croissant ice cream sandwich. We'll have baked goods and we'll have ice cream, and you can put any of them together, and you can have an affogato with our like cherry pie flavor, and you can do like, that was our like original pastry ice cream idea. So maybe that'll be also still on the table then.
I'm all for fancy Cold Stone. My dad is going to hear this and he's going to say, there's nothing wrong with Cold Stone. Don't touch Cold Stone.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Cold Stone.
There is nothing wrong with Cold Stone.
But I would love to see a fancy Cold Stone. I think it's an excellent idea. Thank you both so much for the time. This was awesome. If you would like to share with listeners where they can find Betty Jo's, please feel free to do so.
Okay, so you can find us on Instagram at BettyJo's_ice cream. And our website is betty-joes.com. And if you must know, our TikTok is betty.joes.ice.CRE. I think we might have hit a character.
We hit a character thing, and I also couldn't change it.
Everybody, go follow Maddie and Erin on TikTok, please. And if you haven't yet tried Betty Jo's again, I cannot recommend it enough. Thank you both again. I learned so much. I really appreciate the time.
Our pleasure. Thank you. This is so much fun.
All right, let's debrief. What I appreciated about this conversation is how clearly Betty Jo's shows the trade-off between scarcity, craft, and scale. Erin and Maddie have built a product that people want, partly because it's so manual. The handmade toppings, the monthly flavors, the pickups, the direct customer interaction. Everything I just mentioned is part of the product. But those same things also create challenges when it comes to scaling the business. That tension came up again and again during our conversation. They can probably make more pints, especially with more help in the kitchen. But getting those pints to customers, preserving the pickup experience, deciding when to add flavors, and figuring out whether wholesale or retail makes sense are all much harder questions to answer. This is a business where growth is not simply about producing more. It's about deciding which parts of the experience are essential and which parts can evolve. But after talking with Maddie and Erin, I have the utmost confidence that they will find success, in part because of how thoughtful they are around the trade-off I'm describing. Again, I learned so much during today's conversation, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you haven't already, make sure to follow and leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.